Hello. Can you hear me at the back? I'll take that as a yes. Awesome. Cool. Hello, my name's Will. I'm the co-founder and strategy director at The Park, which is a 7-week-old startup. We create branded experiences for our clients. But before starting that up, I was controller of marketing media at ITV, and that's what I'm here to talk about today and what we did on Love Island. Before I do that, I just want to give a little bit of context to where last year came from and the context that the success of last year meant to us. It was really the culmination of a 4-year plan, and that was to make ITV2 the biggest 1634 TV channel. When I say digital TV channel, so the big three of BBC One, ITV and Channel 4 main channels are head and shoulders above. But ITV2, we wanted to become the biggest after those. And that was a big target because we were a long way from that. And last year we did. So it basically meant overtaking the likes of E4 and Channel 5 to become the biggest 1634 channel, which was absolutely fantastic. What it meant was 4 years ago, number one, deciding that it was all about that audience. So 16 to 34-year-olds really was all that mattered to ITV2. Next was refreshing the brand in 2015, acquiring a lot of the Seth MacFarlane content, so Family Guy and the like, when BBC Three went online, and of course, bringing back, relaunching Love Island. So last year, the success of Love Island really contributed so much to us achieving that goal of overtaking E4. It's important to say that this slide is done with love. I spent several years at Channel 4. I love Channel 4. E4 is a brilliant brand, and I think that's why it meant so much to us, because to overtake the performance of E4 meant so much because they're such a fantastic brand. I can't decide how involved do you want to be? Are you feeling energetic or are you feeling passive? Either's fine. Energetic. All right, we've had one energetic, so I'm going to take that for the whole room. Can I ask everyone to stand up, please? I'm not going to ask you to talk to anyone, do anything awkward. Don't worry, it's going to be very simple. So everyone's standing up. Can I now ask anyone that watched Love Island in some way at some point last summer to sit down? Okay, good. The reason I did that is I wanted to spot the intellectuals. So here they all are. Here are the intellectuals. Now I'd like you to, if you felt like last summer you were pretty much the only ones that weren't, can you now sit down? If you weren't in the country last summer, please sit down. Okay, good. All right, you can all sit down now. So all good science, for it to be true, you need to be able to disprove it. So that's slightly disproved it, but we sort of believe that there were only two groups, and they were those two. People that were watching it and those that felt like, I think I'm the only one that isn't. So for those two groups, to take us back to last summer, I know the sun's sort of come out today, but it still feels like a long time ago. So for one group, this is going to be a nice reminder of hopefully a lovely summer that you enjoyed, and for the other group, a little sneak peek of what you missed.
In the summer of 2017, the Love Island Villa threw open its doors to a brand new load of singles. They were sexy, ready for romance, and really good at standing up in jeeps. And from the moment our singletons walked through the villa's surprisingly large door, Love Island had the nation gripped.
Are you ready for love? Yay!
Night after night, there was drama.
This is silly, but like I really meant it.
There were revelations.
Remember a band called the Blazing Squad?
There was emotion.
All the fucking shit that comes out of your mouth all the time, Chris!
There were confessions.
Do you remember the Blazing Squad?
Oh my days, no way.
There was passion.
Because of a certain gigantic villain. Mate, what are you calling a band? I'm calling you a band.
There were shocks.
Remember the Blazing Squad?
Fuck off!
And there was romance.
We do my girlfriend.
It's over.
Yes, Love Island had it all, and as the temperature rose in paradise, the ratings soared, with 16 to 34 viewing up 174%, not forgetting the 75 million ITV Hub views of the series. What do you think of that, lads?
A little bit.
Exactly. Everybody was watching Love Island, and everybody wanted to have their say, triggering a whopping 2 billion impressions on Twitter. Amber, I said 2 billion! That's better. In summer 2017, Love Island made front page news. It was the talk of daytime telly.
Let's talk Love Island.
Love Island. Love Island.
Love Island.
Love Island. Even the world of showbiz was 100% legit hooked. Rock legends watched it.
Adele, for one, Liam Gallagher, so many unlikely people watching Love Island.
I don't know what you're fucking missing, man. Love Island's where it's at.
Grime stars appeared in it. And Jeremy Corbyn campaigned for it. That's 2 elections you lost, Jeremy, because after 7 glorious weeks, the nation finally chose their winners. Amber, a dancer from Wales, and Ken, a hairdresser from Romford. Romford! ITV2 were also big winners because Love Island's stunning success meant for the first time ever they were crowned the biggest digital channel for 16 to 34s with an impressive 5.7% share. Guys, any last thoughts?
Every fucking person in this place fancies me.
The struggle's real. See you next year, everybody! Perfect!
So there we go, a little reminder of last summer. So in the time I've got today, the truth is I could talk about Love Island all day. A lot of people that know me well would say that I do. But I thought what might be useful for the purpose of this is just to talk about, in true youth-focused listicle style, 7 things that made Love Island massive and what you can do about it. So hopefully these will be things that, regardless of whether you've got a university's marketing budget or Coca-Cola's marketing budget, you can apply in some way, that they are scalable in that respect. The other thing that it's important to say is I don't make Love Island. I'm not a TV producer. There is an unbelievably brilliant team that do. So I'll touch on some of that stuff, but I'm going to focus more on some of the marketing and PR tools that we used. So the first one, speed. So speed was massively important for Love Island. I think the fact that it was on every single night at 9 o'clock, it was sort of like a live box set binge. You could just keep getting more and more of it. And what that meant was that there was an incredible rhythm to it. And in terms of the way the show was made, there was a lot of speed. Stormzy tweeted about it. By the next day, he's in the show. So they were incredibly reactive, but also from a marketing point of view. So we had to capitalise on the things that came out of Love Island, whether it was a saying, a conversation, an image, had a 24-hour shelf life. So we had to be incredibly quick in capitalising on those moments and on those opportunities. So that meant having teams that were very autonomous and a lot of flexibility and speed to be able to do that. Related to speed, the second one, when you're onto something, go. So we actually thought the year before, 2016, was when we thought it had really taken off. I think there's always a bit of a danger with these things that you're in a slight filter bubble of it feels massive, but actually is it? We always believed in the show, but obviously it was actually last year that it went. But the ramp and sort of the curve of growth just went like that. And I think one of the things I've really learned from it is when you feel like you're onto something, you probably are, and just go for it. Maximise it, extend it, go for it as quickly as you can. So we've got a brilliant licensing and sort of brand activation team. There was a call with Primark on the Monday. By the Friday, there's T-shirts nationwide with Love Island slogans. Over 100,000 water bottles were sold through the app. And now this year, there's a lot of work being done on how those partnerships and activations and licensing deals can be broadened from there. But what I'd say is just as a general, if you think you've got something, you have. And if you wait to confirm it, the way things move currently, it will be too late and it will be gone. Use a tone of voice that disrupts the category. If you've watched Love Island, I think you'd agree that actually the tone of the show is quite positive and it's quite funny. Now, that's not really true of a lot of reality TV, and I think it's all credit to the producers of the show and the casting team to make a show that is so positive. It's a lot easier to make a show that's nasty, where you're prodding people and just getting loud people in a room to shout at each other. To actually create things that's dealing with things in a positive way is very hard. That disruption and the fact that it was actually quite different, I think, is one of the reasons it was so successful. And from a marketing point of view, we were very clear to make sure everything we did was just positive and it was about escapism. So on launch day, we had lots of activations around the country with just people giving out beach balls and budgie smugglers and just always trying to be very, very positive. So the thing I'd urge is to look at the category you're in and is there a common tone of voice and is there a way of using a different one that can disrupt it slightly? Because I think when it came to reality TV, the tone of Love Island was quite disruptive. Distribution is crucial. So this might seem obvious, and it should be, really, but I guess what I mean by it and what we learned from this is don't necessarily prejudge where the best places for your brand to be are. I thought it was interesting this morning, actually, that there was a couple of different sort of student and youth panels, and on one of them, someone was basically saying, if I had to delete one app, I'd delete Snapchat, and then on a later panel, someone that basically lived their life through Snapchat. So that just shows, on a sample size of, I think, 7, how varied it can be. I'm a strategist by background. I love doing lots of planning, working stuff out, and spending lots of time and then putting something live. And the reality is, what we found, that's not the way to do it. And actually, don't prejudge where things are going to work. Get your stuff into as many places as possible, and then back the ones that do. So actually, some of the places we thought it was really going to work more, it didn't work so well. And actually, live TV was incredibly robust. There was a lot through there, and there were different platforms that worked particularly well. There was a lot of people, for instance, watching live through the hub, which is something that we found very, very interesting. So the same went for social platforms. Some of the ones that we thought better than others actually didn't. So the thing I'd urge is don't prejudge. Just test lots of places and then back the ones that work for you. Embrace popular culture, don't fight it. So one of the things that get asked quite a lot is sort of what made Love Island so big, and I don't think it's any one thing. I think it really was an interrelation between a lot of very powerful things. It was sort of a perfect storm of things. I think the fact the show was very positive, I think, was quite important. It's a brilliantly made show. I think one of the things was what was going on in popular culture at that time and what it launched into. It's not overstating it to say that right now is actually not an amazing time to be a young person. In some ways it is, but it's actually quite tough, particularly when you think back to last year. Predominantly and overwhelmingly, they didn't vote for Brexit. They certainly wouldn't have voted for Donald Trump in their masses. The prospects of owning a house is as bad as it's ever been. The way that they see the workforce isn't how the workforce is in the main. So there's generally a bit of negativity and just a feeling of I'm a bit fed up with my lot. So basically launching something that was just about escapism and positivity into that, I think, had enormous traction. And a lot of the times when I talk to clients, there's this, sometimes, and I've had it before when the client side, when there's something going on in popular culture that isn't what you want, it doesn't work for your brand, it's not the narrative you want, and we've got to change that, we've got to tackle it. I'd argue that that's a really bad idea, because popular culture is very, very powerful and is a beast. You're much better trying to ride it and just think, okay, if this is what's going on, how can we go with that? What can we do to actually ride some of the energy? Or is there something else that's going on in popular culture? Ignore that and capitalize on that. There's a lot of people doing fantastic stuff, very, very seriously dealing with a lot of the issues that are going on for young people right now. But we were very clear that wasn't for us. If they're having a rough time, let's just give them some escapism, some positivity, and that was what we were all about and stayed very true to. Dramatic pause, because I really like this slide. Be bold and single-minded. So I'm a big believer in simplicity and keeping things simple. Personally, I think what we all do can be made to seem really complicated and different, and I don't think it is. I think it's hard, but it's ultimately very simple. Just make stuff that's really good and get it to as many people as possible. And what we tried to do with the marketing around Love Island was to do that, just be very, very simple. We had a very single-minded message in the lead up to it, which was back to take over your summer. Ironically, it turned out to be quite prescient, but at the time, all we wanted to do was associate Love Island with summer. So in the way that when the John Lewis ad comes out, you feel like Christmas is coming, we wanted that when Love Island's announced, it feels like summer's coming. And we were very, very single-minded about that, and that's all we did. And that carried on through the show. And be bold. Of the marketing budget allocated to Love Island, we spent about 70% of it on launch day. ITV2, our media strategy, we always talk about the idea of hiding behind a hedge and jumping out when you least expect it. So we always want to try and surprise. So that was everything from, the launch promo was true to that, through to on the day. A lot of the experiential activity we did was literally people jumping out to take over your summer. We had guys in budgie smugglers at stations around London giving out budgie smugglers and beach balls. We partnered up with Global. We're giving out ice creams. We did stuff at the summertime ball. It was literally just trying to be very, very true to that idea of back to take over your summer and be as bold and single-minded about it as possible to make our budget go a bit further. When you hear a name like ITV, you sort of assume that the marketing budgets are massive, and obviously we've got the luxury of the TV airtime to use, but actually our off-air budgets are not that big. So we've got to be very clear, very simple, and very bold with how we use those. Finally, be talked about, and I would say this probably is, I think probably the most important one actually, and it's one of the things that sort of led me to my sort of recent career change. I think one of the things that made Love Island go so big was the fact, the breadth of people that spoke about the show and promoted the show. So you saw in the video, you know, everyone from Liam Gallagher to Jeremy Corbyn. And I would argue that your average follower on social media of Liam Gallagher wouldn't necessarily be a core Love Island fan. But when he says, guys, this is where it's at, they're going to take a look, they're going to check it out. So I think the ability, I heard someone talk about it earlier actually, that the ability to sort of borrow the credibility and the audiences from other people was massively, massively useful. And because I think when you hear reality show, or people think, oh, it's not for me, but when there's someone that they respect, they trust, that's really important, and all of a sudden they'll take a look. I think for me, the moment I thought it's gone quite big was when The Guardian wrote quite a sensible opinion piece on it. I thought, okay, I didn't think that's where Love Island was going. The other element of being talked about was I think from a social and just generally the way content's created point of view, I think it's really important that everything you create, you're always leaving a bit of a gap for the viewer, for the consumer to add something to it. You know, let's be honest, the main reason people retweet things, as one example, is because they think it says something about them. It might be something that they agree with, they can add something to it, it's a point that they feel needs to be raised. So we're very clear that everything we did, don't have a full stop on anything, always try and leave it open. How can you allow it to be shared? How can you create something that people are going to be more likely to talk about? So that was a bit of a whistle-stop tour through some of the things that we did with Love Island. As I say, hopefully it was useful, and hopefully that there are some things there that you can take away. As I said, I could talk about Love Island all day. I think we might have some time for some questions, but please, if not now, I'll be around. If you want to get in touch, I'm Will Worsley on Twitter or will@wearethepart.com. But thank you very much.